RDJ returns to the MCU, but as Doctor Doom, Deadpool and Wolverine berserk at the box office, plus a plethora of Comic-Con announcements. All that and more coming up next on Multiverse News. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me on the panel today, we have the wonderful Jay Sisson. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, not too much. Comic-Con came in hot, and we are here to serve up a hot dinner from all of these nuggets.
Ooh, yes. And then the fantastic J. Scotty St. Clair. What's up?
Oh, I'm about to make a name for myself. If you know, you know. That's all I'll say.
And the fabulous Haley Hobbs. What's happening, Haley?
I probably should know, but I've already forgotten. What's up? We got lots to talk about.
Well, it's so much. Too many things that are holding in our heads right now that we're going to have to just get into it. So we started the show, as we always do, with our 5-star review. One of the 5-star reviews you received this week. I really enjoy the show. Matt Carroll hosting is awesome, and Jay Sisson from Commute the Podcast is great, too. Lots of knowledge is spoken on the show. Where do you guys get all this info? I rarely see anything y'all talk about elsewhere, and that's from Marcalomew. And I'm just going to say...
he left off the best parts of the show, so I think you need to go in there and redo that review, my friend.
I did not write this. I did not write this, by the way. It reads like I wrote it. Like it's like, oh yeah, I love this show. Jay Sisson from Commute the Podcast is so good. I promise I did not write it.
Are you changing your name to Jay Sisson from Commute the Podcast?
This is your Commute the Podcast co-host. It's just it's viral marketing.
I am glad that review landed on a week where I wasn't hosting.
Oh, yeah.
No, but you're the writer this week. I mean, come on. The show doesn't happen without us, Scotty.
Absolutely. It's a team effort here.
It does feel extra rude to get that on a week that you're the one hosting. I like it when Matt Carroll hosts the show. What happened this week?
I wonder who wrote that review.
Yeah, that was me.
I like the idea of a review war, then somebody else writing a 5-star review back, but it's like a fire back at that person.
Oh.
Yeah.
A glowing positive review of just Scotty and I.
It's going to get a real Drake and Kendrick thing happening in the comments.
We won't endorse flame wars, but review wars we're all for.
If they're 5 stars, it's whatever.
Yeah.
You guys can drop full diss tracks if you want. Just make them 5 stars.
And we'll make Matt rap them.
Oh, I'll do my best. So the question though there is where do you guys get all this info? Because they rarely see anything we talk about elsewhere. We make it up. All the stories we make them up.
That's right.
None of this is real, actually, and neither are you.
This whole show has been one long con.
It's not working out for us.
It's actually an existential dread narrative podcast that you've been a part of this whole time.
We spake it into existence.
The actual answer is we follow a lot of different news sources.
We're on the trades. We're on Hollywood Reporter. We're on Deadline. We're on Variety. Those are kind of the main ones. But yeah, we're the trades. We try to stay away from the clickbait and the scoopers as much as we can, unless we qualify it. But if we're talking about real stuff, we got it from a trade site. That's a legit publication.
Mr. Humble over there, Jay collects the news, so everybody.
Yes,
that's why I got a shout out, I guess, in this review.
Benicio del Toro over there.
All right, well, let's get into it. It's a huge news week, so let's just dive right in. We were all expecting some exciting news and confirmations coming out of Marvel Studios' San Diego Comic-Con Hall H presentation, but nothing could have prepared us for the biggest and most shocking reveals. So let's break down the tastiest Marvel morsels making waves. We're just going to jump right to the biggest things, which is the Avengers news. The Russos Brothers were officially announced as directors for both the upcoming Avengers film. It's crazy. MCU veteran Stephen McFeely also was revealed to be writing the screenplays for both. The untitled 5th Avengers film was once Kang Dynasty is now Avengers Doomsday and is eyeing May 2026 for its release. The title and release of Avengers Secret Wars was confirmed for May 2027. And biggest thing, craziest thing, I'm sure we'll talk about it for like an hour and a half. Robert Downey Jr. will return to the MCU playing Doctor Doom. What is going on?
Yeah. I am still reeling. I am still processing. And I think that's okay. It was such an interesting way to do things, to start with the Russos, have that vote of confidence, reassure us all. My dopamine was at an all-time high. Then we get the confirmation of Doomsday, and that I did not see coming. It makes sense to kind of pivot from Kang to Doom, especially with Fantastic Four just around the corner and not having anything announced about that. So my excitement went to an all-time high when we saw that Doomsday logo. And then they announced RDJ. And my excitement didn't really go anywhere, but I became aghast. Like, I did not know how to process it. And like I said, I'm still processing it. And overall, I'm kind of mixed. And I'm totally the type, I'll reserve judgment until I see what they do. You know, bringing back the Russos, bringing back Stephen McFeely, like, I have a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in that team, but it simultaneously feels so desperate and safe and risque all at the same time. I just don't know how to process it. So, initially my big question was, is he going to be Tony Stark? Is he going to be Victor Von Doom? And when I went back and saw the panel footage, they did introduce him as Victor Von Doom. But I think, I'm still hoping that with, RDJ, his most known role ever is Tony Stark. They have to find a way to kind of, I hope they kind of go the inverse infamous Iron Man route, where we find out that this version of Doom is in fact a version of Tony Stark. He may be calling himself Dr. Doom, he may know himself as Dr. Doom, but I want him to be connected to Tony Stark in some way. If it's just stunt casting and it's just like, hey, we're going to take the greatest actor we ever had and put him in a new role, that doesn't jive as well with me. But I do find myself, with the confirmation of Secret Wars as well, and knowing how important Doom and the Fantastic Four are going to be here. We've been talking about how that Fantastic Four universe may go by the wayside. I'm really starting to entertain the thought now that we might actually be seeing an end to the MCU and the sacred timeline, and we might actually be jumping ship and going off to new universes, and that might be the soft reboot we've been talking about. So, as you said, there's a lot to process. I think I still left enough on the table here. Let's get into it. What are you all thinking?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, it happened the night of, and we all reacted to it because it was just so shocking, and you just don't really know how to react to it. It's like you're excited because it's a cool thing that happened. I mean, he pulled off the mask. The place went absolutely insane. It was like a professional wrestling sort of thing, like a character showing up from the dead in the ring or something. I mean, so that was cool, and that was a moment. But then you think about it more, and yeah, it does strike to me as kind of strange, like as a strange move. You use the word desperate, and I think I see that. Like, that is confirmed a little bit too, in a way, by the story that was written in Variety today, which was about the payday that is going to be coming out for this movie. And I don't think Marvel Studios wants this knowledge out there, but they are paying the Russo brothers $80 million to make these two movies, which is an exorbitant amount of money. Like, that is crazy for directors who aren't coming off their best work either, by the way. Like, Marvel Studios is not getting the gray man discount from the Russo brothers. Like, they're getting that's a huge check. But then it also mentions that Robert Downey Jr., it doesn't give us a number, but it says he's getting, quote, significantly more than that, in addition to, like, the private jet travel, the trailer, basically like a corner of the lot gets to be his trailers. Like, he's getting the red carpet rolled out for him to come back and do this. And so it's like, if you want to look at it in one way as positive, can Robert Downey Jr. handle the role? Like, of course he can. Can the Russo brothers handle directing two Avengers films? Of course they can. But if you want to look at it in that, like, do I have reason to be nervous perspective, as a Marvel fan, like, I think you have ammunition to do that, because it is risky. It is going to be extremely high budget, and they have to pull it off. Like, with this kind of money going into it and this kind of hype and all of that, they have to pull it off for this thing to continue. And I'll end by kind of saying, like, I personally, I'm not, it doesn't move the needle for me one way or the other. I'm not looking at it hating it. I know a lot of people hate it. I'm not looking at it and loving it. I know a lot of people love it. I'm just sort of in the middle. I want to know more. I want to know what kind of story they're going to do. I want to know, I just want to know more details before I really have an opinion on it. But I do think that by announcing this, if you wanted to make an announcement that got the world talking, you did it. Because I had people who in my life who saw Endgame and saw some of the Marvel stuff, and they were somewhat invested, and then they kind of stepped away after Endgame and hadn't really seen it. They were texting me like, "Hey, you saw this thing about Robert Downey Jr.? Like, what's going on there?" It was leading CNN, it was leading NBC, it was leading major news sites, and you have to consider that there are fans. And fans are people like us, and we're loud on the internet. We give our opinions and all that type of stuff. And you go to Twitter, and it's just like people are mouthing off about it and talking about how stupid it is or whatever. But then they're like normal people, and there's a lot more normal people, and they're probably now interested in a movie that they would not have been interested in had you just announced that it was, I don't know, some guy, right? But the fact that you announced that it's Robert Downey Jr., now you got a lot of just people who are just people who saw some Avengers stuff. They're listening, right? They kind of want to know more. So all in all, that's what they wanted, I think. And I think they're going back to what has had success. Some may call that safe, but I mean, maybe that's where we're at with Marvel, right? Is going back to what works. So I think it's interesting, but I just want to know more before I really can have a strong opinion about it.
To your point about normal people, I was at my birthday party, having some drinks, sitting on the back porch when this news dropped, and someone's like, RDJ is Doom. And we're at the table, and then I don't know anyone at that table is a Marvel fan. They're all just people from various parts of my life. One's a horn player from a band of mine. One is a guy that I used to hang out with 10 years ago. And suddenly we were having an MCU cast. We were all sitting in the den, holding our heads on our hands on our faces, what does this mean? What is going on? I don't know. Does this mean this? Is it desperate? Is it beautiful? I don't know. It's both. I'm so confused. But it was just the energy it brought to the conversation. And just like you said, Jay, I had friends texting me who know I am a Marvel guy, texting me who we don't really talk about Marvel stuff much, but they're like, what do you think about this crazy thing they're doing? And it's brought more conversation and energy around Marvel. All those people, because you say there's more normal people than there are Marvel people. But for about 10 years, that wasn't true. For about 10 years, Marvel became so ubiquitous. And now that it's sort of drifted into phase 4 and 5, I think that a lot of people drifted away from Marvel. Yeah. But this one decision, all those normies who were all in on Marvel for the Infinity Saga are looking back. They're just peeking. What's that one where that thing where Shaq's moving his hands and looking through the window?
Looks enticed. Yeah.
Looks enticed, that meme. They're doing that.
The shoulders.
Yeah.
I know when I saw it and we were hanging out with friends, I texted Jay and I was like, is this real? Because I kind of thought, is it a stunt? And it is a stunt, but it's a very effective one because they're, like we've all talked about, it's the buzz. It's the buzz in the world right now. And I'm not bothered by it. It doesn't affect me in a negative way by any means. I reflect on RDJ's Instagram post and what he said when he came out on stage, which was new mask, same task. And I choose to interpret that as he's been brought back in to, like you said, Scotty, reboot this franchise, give it a new beginning for a new section of it. I don't think you don't think of the MCU as a continuous universe anymore, but I think there's sections of it now. And I think that's kind of how I'm starting to frame it in my mind. And there's nothing wrong with that. Something in Doomsday is probably still going to tie back to something in the Avengers or something. They're still going to do it. But when you try to do something like this and it's so sprawling and it's so big and it's got so many characters in it, this was inevitable, as was Thanos. I'm back with the puns this week, you guys. And in that way, I really like it. I think, whichever one of you talked about it being safe, the MCU played it safe and focused for a long time, and then they tried not to, and look how much it backfired and the backlash that they got.
Yeah.
Not from me personally. I haven't disliked anything but one property. But from the quote, larger population, it backfired. And I'm gonna kind of liken it to The Acolyte in Star Wars. They took a risk with that show and did different and unique things, and it got just so much backlash. Does that mean they won't keep doing things like that? Not necessarily, but we're seeing just a way more focused, like lasered in look at what they want to do going forward. And these properties are all starting to align again. Whereas in our recent phase, not so much. So I think, maybe it's like looking at it like there was a hiatus or something. I don't know. I think the infamous Iron Man storyline is 100% influencing this, and I think that's great. And I don't know. It just I like it. My husband hates it. Hates, capital H, hates it. Which is funny because I'd call him a normie.
Right. It's interesting how many normies have strong opinions on it. I think it's really crazy. Like they're weird, they're excited, but they're having the same conversations that we are about like, this seems weird and desperate, but also cool, and I don't know how to feel. It's weird.
I want to say too, I meant to say this, that, everyone's kind of bemoaning Cillian Murphy. I think he would have been great. I don't think Cillian Murphy was ever going to do something like this, though.
No, I don't think so either. No.
Interesting. My biggest take on this whole thing is that I really like on the MCU cast. I said this, but I said a lot of things. We did 2 episodes where we talked about this on the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, and we have gone deep on it, and I've had a lot of takes. But the thing that I think this is more than anything is they made a mistake with Endgame. I think Endgame is perfect, and I don't think they should have done anything differently. But the mistake they made is they did not pass the torch to anyone new. That movie's main cast is the main cast from the first Avengers movie. And yes, there's lots of other characters, but they're side characters. It is focused on the classic 6 Avengers, in my opinion. And that's a problem when you want to go from that to a new phase and start pumping up new characters, and you didn't set anyone up for people to really, really care about. And I think that this may be an attempt to right the wrong that they did there, and be like, okay, now we're going to bring in the same directors, the same writers, some of the same actors, probably some of the same characters returning to the multiverse, and we're going to also introduce you to the Fantastic Four and try to see if they can actually hand it off this time. Because if you give all that time to Robert Downey Jr., that gets the butts in the seats. But if he's the villain, it allows you to build up new heroes. And then when that threat is gone, those heroes still exist in the universe and can move on to phase 7, 8, 9, whatever. I think it's... when I think about it that way, I'm more okay with it, but I do think it's definitely stunt casting, and it has its issues. And I don't know. I'm on board. As soon as I saw the Russos were in, I was on board. But it's a wild thing.
Well, comic books, just in general, too, are just kind of a niche thing, really. When you think about the stories, this type of move is completely not weird in a comic book. The idea of a character that you thought was dead just not being dead all of a sudden and being somebody totally different, or somebody just ripping the mask off and you're like, that guy, I thought he was gonna that's not weird in comics. But that does not, the nicheness of comic books in and of themselves does not super well translate to a billion-dollar movie franchise, because it doesn't really draw in. It's niche by definition. It doesn't necessarily draw in everyone, because people are going to have a limit on how much of the zaniness that they can take, right? That a comic book will put out there. So the comic book film is kind of this very it's like a balancing act. It's how do we make this thing that people want to see, but appeal to the most people, and it doesn't get too weird like a comic book, but also stays true to its roots, right? And it's I think with something like this, comic book fans are just kind of okay, yeah, of course it's Robert Downey Jr. coming back and playing Dr. Doom. It's not weird, but then for people who just aren't really comic book readers, they're this is weird, right? Because I saw him die, and then he won an Oscar, and now he's back. What's going on here, right? So it's just kind of a disconnect a little bit, I think, and I think we're just going to need a little bit more time, not with just the news, but just more time with the vision before we can really buy in or buy out on what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am certain we will continue this conversation. It's wild news, and I'm sure as we hear more about the story, because it's like you're saying there, Jay, you're like a character returning. It's like we don't know it's the same character. We don't know anything about it. It's just it's Doctor Doom. Like who is this? Like I'm kind of assuming it's not Tony Stark, but because it's weird if they like eat up their introduction of their first Doctor Doom is a Tony Stark. It feels weird because then you're just like not using Doctor Doom.
The storyline of Infamous Iron Man is that it is Doom. He just takes on this
Iron Man's
mantle of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Right.
Stark.
Yeah.
Also, like, even though RDJ is coming back for these movies, how much longer does he really want to do this, and how much longer can Disney afford to pay him? So, like, Doom is a character that, I mean, whatever version of the universe we're going to have going forward, Doom should be a part of it. So, that's why I'm still kind of holding out hope that even if he is Victor Von Doom, it's kind of, you know, like you said, a passing of the torch, a passing of the mantle. They don't just like, you know, one and done. He died. So
Yeah.
he came back somehow.
Thinking about the idea I was talking about passing the torch and having new heroes to fight this villain that we all love to watch on screen, and seeing him in a new way, but having new heroes to build up. I think it is essential that they work out the Sony rights with Spider-Man, because if they can make us love Fantastic Four like we love Captain America and Tony and Hulk and Thor and Nat and Hawkeye, like if they can get us to love the Fantastic Four like we love the original Avengers, and they can add Spider-Man to that, and then continue to have Ant-Man and Doctor Strange and all the other cast of characters that don't have the same weight, but maybe could after a few more movies, I think they could really have the inertia to move forward. But like that's been the problem, is keeping the butts in seats and keeping the inertia they had. All right. Up next, let's talk about Brave New World. It kicked off the proceedings, and we learned that Harrison Ford's Thunderbolt Ross is in fact our Red Hulk. Tiamat is the source of adamantium in the MCU, and Giancarlo Esposito's mystery character is Sidewinder, the king of the Serpent Society.
Yeah, there was a lot of really positive reception to the footage that was shown at Comic-Con. That footage has not been made public yet. We obviously have the trailer that was released a couple weeks ago, but this featured a lot of new looks at a lot of the action scenes and, like you mentioned, some confirmation of some big storylines here that are going to have to play into this story. And I think I'm definitely excited for this movie. What I'm a little nervous about is that it is going to focus a little bit too much on the world building and not as much on the character, which is kind of like the hole that a couple Marvel films have fallen into. Like I think Iron Man 2 sort of fell into that hole a little bit of like
Absolutely.
trying to build up the world and just like really ignored what the main character was there for. And there's such a powerful story that could be told in this movie. And I just hope that this movie gives Sam room to breathe as the main character, and we're not focused on the Celestial, the Red Hulk, as like the big things. I don't want to leave this movie being like, well, Red Hulk looked pretty cool and the Celestial was cool and it had a cool post-credit scene, So I think overall I am hopeful for this movie. Like I said, it was very well received at Comic-Con. People were very excited about the footage, and I think as we get closer and closer and we see a little bit more, I think people will buy a lot more into the idea of this movie. But yeah, I'm excited. The cast looks like they're having a great time. Harrison Ford was out there, telling everybody to go to hell every time they asked him a question, which is what you want to see because it's Harrison Ford and that's what he does. And Anthony Mackie having a great time. So yeah, I'm here for it. It should be fun.
I think this has a really good shot of not doing what you're worried about, because the characters that are in this film have so much pathos around them. Like Isaiah Bradley is somebody who is a very complicated character that we hopefully get to explore more of in this movie than we got in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And even, Sam Wilson's character, he's got a lot on his shoulders. We hear him being told, you're Captain America, but you're not Steve Rogers. You don't have the super soldier serum. You don't have this, you don't have that. So he's got to balance these things, which I know that's what the show was about, but it wasn't until the very end. So I think we're going to get a lot of those really cool and kind of like ethical conversations. And I think that the character of Sidewinder being in the comics like a Hydra agent could really link us back to the Winter Soldier. So I think we're going to get some really strong ties with that movie, which, like I said, just a while ago, like I think we are still hearkening back to things, even if it doesn't feel like we're all in the same place exactly anymore.
I mean, I do think you're definitely right about hearkening back. I think this movie has tons of connections to previous MCU properties, and we were talking about a lot on MCU Cast the other day about the Thunderbolts too, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The connections to other movies. We've been complaining for years now about the lack of connectivity, and these next two movies between Cap 4 and Thunderbolts, it feels like they are just really, really infused with connection.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go with it too. Like Jay, you mentioned, you compared it to potentially being like Iron Man 2, but another movie that I'll kind of compare the same way, where they don't really stand alone as movies on their own, but as episodes of the greater MCU, they function as great episodes and provide a lot of world building. Iron Man 2 comes to mind, and Age of Ultron comes to mind. I remember being slightly disappointed coming out of the theater for Age of Ultron, but going back to rewatch it, it's just got so much value because of all the setup that it does. So I'm with everybody. I don't want Sam to get sidelined in his own movie forthright, but I really am excited for the potential for all that continuity, harkening back to Incredible Hulk, harkening back to that tone of Winter Soldier, knowing that, Giancarlo Esposito's character is involved with the Serpent Society, and knowing that he's talked about a spin-off series there. And I guess one of the pieces of news that's worth mentioning here is that I guess Seth Rollins he's a wrestler. He was previously involved with the production of this movie, but it sounds like for all intents and purposes, he has been replaced via the reshoots and the inclusion of Giancarlo Esposito. So last thing here, Jay, you did mention the trailer again. I saw Deadpool and Wolverine twice this opening weekend, so no spoilers for that, but I did see that trailer again both times that I didn't pay attention the first time. Well, I paid attention, but not super close attention. The second time I watched it, I made sure to confirm they definitely edited that trailer from the first version that we saw. There's the scene with Isaiah taking the shot is omitted.
Say that maybe has been dictated by some real life events, probably.
Absolutely.
It was just bad timing. Can't do anything about that, unfortunately.
Here's my one worry about this film: is it going to pass the Bechdel test?
All right.
I
I don't know that there's enough women in it to pass the Bechdel test.
With you bringing that up, we may have an opportunity to talk about it with Thunderbolts again, but just talking about that connectivity and the connection to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even though I hated the way they treated Sharon Carter's character, making her the power broker, I am hopeful that maybe she'll have an opportunity to come back and be rehabbed some way.
I could see her in league with the leader for sure.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing we didn't mention in the news, but they also talked to apparently that that lady who is with in the footage, apparently the lady that is with working with the president or whatever is a Black Widow. Is it being talked about?
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
I think I heard it was the character that was previously Sabra, the one with the Israeli ties. I think they've repurposed her, as a Black Widow or something like that.
Is now Sabre. Sorry.
I find that Black Widow connection really interesting because of the fall of the Black Widow corporation or whatever in Black Widow.
LLC.
The LLC, exactly. The fall of there's no longer a corporate office. So what are all those Black Widows doing? And could this is 5-6 years later after the events of that. So what could this mean for these characters? I don't know.
Like the fallout of Winter Soldier,
exactly.
All those agents went to different places.
Hydra, Shield, and now all the Black Widows are out there somewhere doing something. And we know some of them got on the helicopter with the team or whatever, but a lot that were out in the field probably didn't. So I'm really curious where some of those people end up. Okay. After the Thunderbolts cast appearance, the focus switched to the Fantastic Four film, which was revealed to include the subtitle First Steps, with the titular cast taking the stage even as filming just began in London.
Well, there's great footage of David Harbour coming out in his Red Guardian costume at Comic-Con. If you want to go on the interwebs and find it, he was totally in character as Alexei, and it made me laugh. And then he was like, "You guys didn't wear your costumes!" Like, it was hysterical. My takeaway from Thunderbolts is that Yelena is front and center, because when everybody was asked, Florence was kind of like, she's that girl, sort of, when they were all focused on her. I am very excited to see Lewis Pullman's character. He's going to be Sentry, right?
Yeah.
I think I might fall in love with him, even though Sentry is not like the best person, but I think I love Lewis Pullman. I don't know. But that was fun. And then Fantastic Four was crazy. So the stills from the footage that they've shown look freaking fantastic. I am so excited that Matt Shakman is helming this movie, because he did such a great job directing WandaVision, and those retro episodes are my favorite episodes in that show. And so I know he can capture an aesthetic, and I know he can direct actors to also capture that aesthetic. And I'm very, very, very excited for 1960s retrofuturism Fantastic Four. Pedro had his coif, already kind of, you could tell his hair's been cut to be more 1960s. And just the fact that they flew them there overnight from shooting is pretty amazing. And I'm not a big Fantastic Four person. I haven't read a lot of those comics. I think some of their things are gimmicky, and they are, but I'm looking forward to seeing them hopefully not be super gimmicky. And just, I'm excited. This is maybe becoming one of my most anticipated films.
Yeah, the footage was leaked online, and it's a vibe. It's the movie has a very, very distinct, and this was just test footage. It was very early. They started real filming this week. But yeah, you could really get a sense of the vibe that they were going for. It looks funny. It looks like Jetsons. It looks like really futuristic, but not, kind of like what Fallout sort of does. It had a very distinct style that just screams like we are confident in what we're doing, and we're making a movie that is in its own universe, so we don't have to tie to anything that we don't want to tie to, and all of that. And Matt Shakman was asked, is Robert Downey Jr. going to be in this movie as Doom? And he basically effectively said no comment, which is sort of a confirmation that he's probably popping in a post-credit scene or something. I mean, you have to set him up if he's going to be this big villain that's coming down the highway in these two Avengers films. But also, Kevin Feige confirmed that the Fantastic Four, which, I mean, no surprise, will be in both of these Avengers movies. And so that's important, because we know that there's been questions about who's going to show up in these movies, right? They can't put everybody in. So how are we going to form a team that's going to shoulder this fight against Doctor Doom? And it seems like the Fantastic Four are going to be very core main characters of this universe really going forward.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four have already gotten a lot of love and attention here, so I'll kind of focus in on the subtitle, First Steps, because it is the fifth Fantastic Four film that we've got. A lot of people haven't seen that 1994 Roger Corman film, but I do suggest it. I think it's better than some of the other Fantastic Four films that we've gotten.
I haven't seen was it 2015 one?
Don't waste your time on that one. Yeah. And that's coming from me. So, yeah.
I waste my time on everything.
Yeah. Thinking about that title, First Steps, it seems like an obvious allusion to the First Family, which I love, Marvel's First Family, leaning into that and with the 1960s aesthetic that we've all celebrated here. But First Steps could potentially be, maybe some of the younger Richards. I think Franklin Richards is a character. I'm not as versed in that portion of the comics there. But then also with the 60s setting, I imagine the space race, first steps on the moon, first steps in a new universe, first steps in the negative zone, potentially. But I do want to focus on Thunderbolts a little bit there, because in addition to that excitement for that potential continuity we were talking about there, I'm just really excited for these characters to return. There are some Marvel movies that are better than others, but I enjoy every single one. They entertain me on some level. So Taskmaster, Ghost, John Walker, getting to hear Wyatt Russell talk about the fact that he's okay with being as hated as he is was just kind of, encouraging for me, because it just makes me think that he's going to relish being that guy that much more, which I think we need. Yeah. So they may all be dispensable, but again, focusing in on Lewis Pullman, not Bill Pullman. The fact that they're taking the character of Sentry, whose name is Robert Reynolds, and they're just referring to him as Bob. In Top Gun Maverick, that his character's call sign was Bob, so he's just got this reputation of playing Bobs, which is pretty great.
Baby on board.
Kevin Feige still, by the way, will not tell us what the asterisk is after Thunderbolts. So
right.
They're holding
wait
out.
and see. Somebody asked him, and he was like, "Nope, you'll know when you know."
Yeah, they asked the director, and he was like, "Can I tell them?" And Kevin was like, "No."
Yeah. Oh, I think it was Sebastian Stan, right? He was like, "Can I say?" And they're like, "No, you can't." Wasn't it? Anyway,
I thought it was the director.
It was the director. Okay. The thing about Thunderbolts that like surprised me that this is not news, but I didn't know who was writing it. I guess I just hadn't paid any attention, and it's the guy. The team has written some great stuff and a lot of comedy. Which I was just thinking about we had, this is an MCU cast discussion. Sorry to retread, but if you listen to both podcasts, but we were just talking about how many of these characters are comedic, and we were like, I wonder how comedic the tone will be, and we looked into it, and it's like BoJack Horseman, Hacks, The Bear, and Beef. From Joanna Callow, which so those are funny shows with heart and like some serious heart, but the one that blew me away was Lee Sung Jin, also on Beef, but was also on Dave. If you guys have watched Dave, which I really like Dave, and also on 26 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just some real comedy bona fides there. Oh, and Silicon Valley is another one that Lee Sung Jin has written on. Yeah. So like some really good comedy writers for a team that I think is full of comedy-rich characters. And I'm really wondering what the tone of Thunderbolts will be after realizing that. And I love a good comedic tone that has some serious action and stakes, so I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
I think it's been a shame that Julia Louis-Dreyfus has not had the opportunity to really like flex her comedic chops. And then the fact that they brought in, Geraldine Viswanathan when they were courting Ayo Edebiri, obviously, as well. Like she was on The Bear. She's had mostly comedic roles. Like, yeah. I think that tone's going to work perfectly with the kind of irreverence and, potentially like debauchery and violence we're going to see on display.
Yes. Looking forward to the debauchery.
Hey, it's got Alexi, so.
Indeed. All right. Well, up next, moving away from that Hall H Marvel goodness, regarding would-be Marvel saviors, Deadpool and Wolverine, this year's sole theatrical outing for Marvel Studios was an absolute monster at the box office, hauling in more than $211 million domestically in its opening weekend. That was enough to make it the 6th highest opening of all time in the United States, as well as the highest opening for a rated R film ever, and it was no slouch worldwide either, with an impressive $444.3 million 3-day opening globally. Considering the only 5 tentpole films that outdid Deadpool and Wolverine's debut all went on to cross the $1 billion threshold, can this flick claw its way to join 2019's Joker in the rated R $1 billion Bub Club?
The answer is yes. I definitely lost this bet. I can admit when I have taken the L. This movie's already halfway to $1 billion as we speak, and it's been out for less than a week. It'll be to $1 billion extremely quickly, and it owned the weekend. I mean, it was dominating Comic-Con. They had this whole Comic-Con panel for it. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman went balls to the wall with marketing for this movie. They were on every show, every interview. The commercials were hilarious. Their like random bits that they were doing for like short video content on social media was all hilarious. Like they full court press marketing this movie to the point where people that I know that just haven't seen any of the Deadpool movies were like, I really want to go see this. Like they were going out and seeing it without having seen any of the X-Men or any of the Deadpool, just because of the word of mouth. Like we talk about almost weekly in here that if you want to be successful at the box office, you really need to have an event film. And this is an event film. Like people want to come out and see this when it's in theaters and they're hearing good things. It's got super strong word of mouth. And I mean, it's this really, I mean, we talk a lot about Marvel kind of having these like ups and downs and ebbs and flows, but this is box office domination. I mean, this is a huge win for Marvel and for Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and it's great to see because it's just they've, like I said, all of their work paid off. Like their marketing paid off, the making the film with care paid off. Like all of these things brought a deserved return at the box office. And so, yeah, this might end up being your highest grossing movie of the year. I mean, this might cross over Inside Out 2 and get to that point. Like we're there now. We're at that conversation of it making that much to put it into that spot.
What did we bet, Jay? $1 million? Was it
we never decided on what?
Dang it.
Well, I don't think it should be Carolina Reaper after last time, but it should still be hot, right?
Should be something. Yeah.
I was thinking the bomb.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
The bomb hot sauce.
From
you put
Hot
it on,
Ones.
Yeah, whatever you want. You can.
And
Jay, plug in. Come on.
And I try to like do the lightning round or something while eating it.
Yeah. You get take over for that one. They did go on Hot Ones as part of the promotion. I feel like that's pretty appropriate.
We'll have to make it. We'll make it like a Patreon exclusive. Really. No, I'm just kidding. We won't do that. But yeah, we'll talk about it. I mean, I lost that bet for sure. Like it's over. That movie is going to $1 billion super fast.
Getting close.
My favorite marketing niche thing was Ryan Reynolds narrating a Nat Geo clip of an actual Wolverine. Go look it up on Instagram. Like it was actually, I was like, this is my kind of humor. Like I love this. This is
they just let him
funny.
do whatever. He was just like they just gave him a huge budget and they were like, do whatever you want to market this.
Well, Nat Geo's under the Disney family, so it all works out in the end. But I don't know how you don't like this movie if you're in this sphere at all. And I think where you're going to really feel the hurt, Jay, is the repeat viewings, because you have to go see it more than once, just based on the content of the film. We won't spoil anything here, of course, but like I'm going to go see it again because I'm like, I have to see it again. I didn't catch probably even a third of the things that went on in this film, and it was just such a good time. So we'll see if it beats the big old Inside Out 2.
It had a $24 million Monday.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It
it's
was
literally
crazy
$500
numbers.
million.
It was crazy numbers. It crossed like 200 and something on the opening couple days. I was just like, okay, this is over. Which, and by the way, like it should be said from the beginning, if this is the first time listening to this podcast, that I was not trying to like say that Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be bad. I understood that it would do well at the box office, obviously. I'm just saying to people listening, and that like I am happy that it's doing so well. It's just if this is somebody's first time, I don't want to be like, oh man, he hates Deadpool and Wolverine.
That just gives credence to the nature of the bet and the like absolute success this thing is. Like it's R-rated, so this feat is not to be, undermined or underestimated in any way. It's like I can't even list the number of records it's broke. Again, they're like, you get some pretty specific qualifiers there, but I agree with you. I don't think there's any way that this movie doesn't cross that $1 billion threshold, especially comparing it to the performance of Joker. And to your point, Haley, all those repeat viewings, there's so many cameos, so many Easter eggs. You're going to want to go back and go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb. But I will be curious to see how front-loaded it is, because I can't help but feel bad for Twisters. That was a great movie that I think deserved to kind of be seen on a premium format if possible, and all those screens have been absolutely eaten up by Deadpool. So depending on how it performs in the future, Alien Romulus is not that far off now. I wonder if it's going to have to make way for some of the competition in later summer. I don't think it's going to be that stiff of competition, but it's going to be a factor in how this thing plays out in the long run. And audiences, I think, are still a little bit used to, hey, I didn't catch it in theaters, but it's only a matter of time before it's on Disney Plus. I wonder how much of a factor that is, especially with the R rating again.
My brother never goes to movies except for his kids, and he called me tonight to ask me what movies he needed to watch to go see Deadpool and Wolverine. Like it's wild, man. I was like, he is not a Marvel guy at all. He's like, I haven't seen any of the X-Men's or the Deadpools, and I was like, okay, Which one of these 20 movies do you need to see? Yeah, it's crazy. The biggest takeaway from, and not to be a downer on this movie, because I think this movie is great for what it is, but I am really glad the Russos and not Sean Levy are taking the Avengers movies. There was talk of Sean Levy taking the Avengers movies. This movie is great. Mm-hmm. It is a great Deadpool movie. It did not pull off what I needed to see from Sean Levy to be like, he could be the next Avengers director. And so I'm really glad, as much as going back to the Russos is a safe choice, I'm glad they didn't go with Levy. I don't think he would have been a good choice for this. Although they're probably looking at these box office and being like, maybe he could have done that. That would have been fine.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I did go see the movie twice during the opening weekend, so I definitely contributed to those numbers, but sadly I was unable to procure a popcorn bucket. There was one showing 15 minutes earlier than my showing, and apparently they sold out an hour before that showing. So, I'm one to commit to the bit, but this one may have run its course. We may have witnessed the rise and fall of the novelty popcorn bucket here.
I got this.
Okay, a little tiki.
Nice little tiki glass with the two Wolverine and Deadpool on it. It's not a popcorn bucket. My friend went to see it with me. It was on my birthday, and I didn't go to the counter, and she did, and she's like, I couldn't decide between the popcorn bucket and the glass, but I went with the glass, and I was like, thank you. I'm very appreciative of this glass. But Multiverse News will be very disappointed that you didn't go with the popcorn bucket.
The only option, you're going to have to buy it secondhand on eBay for like $400.
That's not happening.
That's just where we're at, you know?
As always, join the Patreon.
Join the Patreon.
Scotty's popcorn bucket endeavors.
All right, moving on. While the distinguished competition did not have nearly as visible a presence at Comic-Con this year, this week was still full of noteworthy updates from DC Studios. First, figurehead James Gunn unveiled a new logo for the studio with a simple, clean design that, much like the version of Superman, appears to harken back to the golden age of comics. Additionally, we got our first look at the DCU's debut project, Creature Commandos, via a trailer that showcased the show's animation and each team member in action. Lastly, it's a double dose of Penguin news as the third trailer for the upcoming Colin Farrell-led HBO original series hit the internet alongside the news that Matt Reeves and Bruce Timm's Batman Caped Crusader series at Amazon will feature a female Penguin. With all these updates, how confident are we feeling about the direction DC, the DCU, and Elseworlds seems to be taking?
Feeling more confident than I was last week. I still think it was a mistake to, skip Comic-Con, but it wasn't the massive miscalculation that I thought it was going to be, because with the swing from the fences that we got from Marvel, I don't think there was a way that DC wasn't going to come out of this thing overshadowed. So what we got, I like. It's looking good. I'm going to focus in on Creature Commandos because, that's the first project we're going to get. We learned that that's going to start streaming in December. And it was just a great first look. We got to see the animation style, which seems like it's going in keeping with the best of the DC animated universe, things like Young Justice, and most of the movies that they're coming out with today, like Justice League War, comes to mind. So that was really encouraging. And I'm, again, talking about connectivity, I'm super excited to see how this kicks off the DCU and factors into other things, because as soon as we saw Frank Grillo's Rick Flag Sr., I remembered, he's going to be a part of Peacemaker 2, season 2 anyway. And then I don't think I got any official confirmation on this, but as I was kind of, scouring the internet, take this with a grain of salt, but I think I saw something that said Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag Jr. might actually be a part of Peacemaker season 2. So if we're going to get the potential setup for that in Creature Commandos, it's just going to be one more reason to check that out, and it looks fantastic.
Interesting. They've also talked about how Peacemaker will explain the shift in universes. I wonder if Rick Flag is one that didn't die or something. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's a strange thing.
DC also unveiled a new logo for DC Studios, which looks pretty cool. I like it. It's pretty clean. And the announcement was made today that Superman has officially finished filming. We talked about that it was getting close, and they wrapped it today. So going to start seeing that film go into some production, and it'll have a long production. But we're starting to see the DCU. We're seeing the vision, right? Like, we're kind of seeing this thing come together. And I thought the Creature Commandos trailer was like just short enough to make you want to know more, and it was just showed us just enough to see that it was very James Gunn. It was very funny. Like, it's leaning into what it should be and like what it was sold as. So yeah, I mean, even though they weren't there, they were still sort of there through HBO and Warner Brothers and all of that in a way, and so at least got some of these projects that they have coming out soon, like the Penguin and Cape Crusader and all of that, which is on Prime, but still, you kind of have this vision starting to come together, which is cool.
I gotta say, I as much as I don't think any of these projects look bad to me. Like, they all look good for what they are. After hearing what Marvel is doing and the new vision and the direction, and feeling so sure and feeling in safe hands and feeling like it's aiming towards Doom and all this craziness with the next two Avengers movies, and how they've like pared down to 2 TV shows a year, all of that happening, and then reading this like kind of mess of DC stuff, like, it all sounds good, but it's a lot of things and a lot of different directions to me. With like like I said, the DCU, the DC, and the Elseworlds, it's like just so much. So many different ways to go, and it feeling a lot less directional, especially since it's James Gunn. It has one head, one visionary person. I kind of want them to feel more directional. Right now, it doesn't feel directional to me in comparison.
I think that's perhaps always going to be DC's Achilles heel at this point, because they just can't seem to get away from it. When they announced James Gunn and Peter Safran, whatever, it was like, oh, we're uniting the Thing, but they're not. They didn't axe all these projects, which I'm really excited for. Batman Caped Crusader, I think it looks really awesome, so I'm glad. But if you're not gonna do the hard thing, then this is what it's gonna be. And so, and Marvel did this a little bit with the Foxverse, but the Foxverse was so inconsequential and so not on par with what the MCU was doing that it truly didn't matter. The thing about DC is that some of these other projects are really high quality, and you start to go, well, why can't we have all of this under one roof? And I just don't know that it works for DC to do that. So I think it all looks good. Even Creature Commandos, which is probably really not my thing of all of these projects, it looked fun, it looked interesting, it looked pretty dark and adult, and I think that's what James Gunn wants to bring to his corner. And everybody else is sort of doing similar things. So it's like they're all in the same pool, but they're all playing with different pool toys. You know what I mean? like we're all here together, but we're not. But I just don't think they can get away from doing it that way at this point.
Yeah,
and I think that's
blowing
okay.
it up completely.
I mean, they could lean into that and just be like, we're the people who do the Elseworld stuff. I mean, they can lean
and I think
into
that's
it.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
All right, up next, we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the reason Comic-Con exists in the first place, the comics. Thankfully, our resident aficionado is here to give us a snapshot of the latest and greatest happenings and from the panels and pages of our favorite fictional universes. Take it away, Haley.
Let me get my notes up. I'm not an aficionado. Don't put that heat on me, J. Scotty St. Clair. I'm just the one who reads them. So I'll start by saying, since we just got off of DC, that they didn't have a lot of comics announcements that I could find. Their biggest thing was the Absolute Universe, which we've already talked about on the show. That's their big new launch that they're going to do, similar to the Marvel Ultimates. So refer to a show a few weeks back if you want to listen to us talk about that a little more. From Marvel, we got a lot of stuff, so I'll just hit some highlights. Laura Kinney Wolverine is getting an ongoing solo series in December, written by Erica Schultz, and Psylocke is also getting a solo comic series in November, written by Alyssa Wong, and they are coming up hard in Marvel Comics. They've done a lot of writing, and people really love what they're doing, so that's cool. And remember that X-Men is on a reboot, so it's From the Ashes X-Men right now, so that's kind of tying into all these new series. We're getting One World Under Doom starting in 2025, which we know nothing else about, but it looks rad. And then there's going to be a fun 5-issue limited series about the TVA, written by Catherine Blair, who was one of the writers on the Loki series. it's going to show heroes that were pruned, basically, and put into the void, like Captain Carter and Ghost Spider and some other things like that, kind of teaming up and doing something, so that's fun. There were other Marvel announcements, but, you can go on their website and find them out. I didn't want to go too long. And then Star Wars did some interesting announcements where they doubled down on the Acolyte, which I was really happy to see because I like the confidence in that show from them. So we're getting an adult tie-in novel called The Acolyte Wayseeker by Justina Ireland, which focuses on Vernestra Rwoh. Justina has done a lot of writing on Vernestra in the High Republic so far, and they've been young adult and junior novels mostly, but they've all been good. And then Tessa Gratton, who similarly has done the same kind of writing, is doing a young adult tie-in novel for The Acolyte focusing on Yord and Jecki, who were characters in the show. And that one comes in 2025. And then let's see. We've talked about the Kelnaka one-shot that's an Acolyte kind of tie-in. They're doing an art of The Acolyte. They're doing a visual guide. So, they're doubling down on it, in my opinion, and I love that. I'm like, give it a season 2. Let's see. And then the next, so we've talked before in the past about how the current Star Wars comic runs are ending because they're catching up to Return of the Jedi. And so the next phase, I guess, is the best way to call that, is their maxi series, which is going to be Battle of Jakku, Insurgency Rising. So talking about the rebellion, or I guess it'd be the resistance. Yeah, the resistance kind of coming to life. So that starts in October. And there were other things, but I'm already tired. So tons of stuff in publishing world, and I'm sure you'll find us covering some of those over on source pages.
Sweet.
Very cool. Thanks for gathering all that up.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And I'm not done because I'm going to plug the Patreon contest. It's the last 2 days, July 30th, July 31st, to join the Patreon. And you'll be entered to win the commission piece from my friend, Tommy Lombardozzi, co-host of the Jack to Kirby podcast. We'll draw that. I think we should draw it live next week on the show. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great idea.
I won't be here, but I like it.
Oh, Scotty, you're sad. Maybe we won't do it that way. It's a surprise. We'll see. Depends on how I feel. But join the Patreon. It's $4
without me.
I might say. I don't know if Tommy will do that. $4 a month on Patreon. Patreon.com/multiverse newscast. We appreciate everybody who's joined, and we're really building a community over there. So join us and come hang out.
Dropped some exclusive content over there last week too. So
we did.
Yeah, we had a little conversation after the show about there were only just Scotty, Haley, and I were on it, but we just did a little conversation about our introduction to fandom when we were younger and what that was like for us, just like a journey. It was like 12, 15 something minute conversation. So we are going to try to do that on Patreon a little bit more often, just kind of have little side conversations and give patrons some exclusive stuff that they can listen to.
I love that. Have you guys all seen The Acolyte?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we, after the show, can I yell about The Acolyte and you guys try to calm me down? And we put that on Patreon?
Maybe.
Just for a few minutes.
We'll talk about it.
I think it'll be enjoyable to the patrons. And I know we did a whole thing on Always Watching. You guys should go listen to their full coverage of The Acolyte. But I have questions and concerns, and I need Haley to explain it to me.
Okay. Don't be harsh. Okay. I really liked it.
I liked it too. But
I think it has flaws. But
it might have answers.
There's some things that I am frustrated by, and go to our patreon.com/multiverse newscast and you'll hear me yell about those. All right, we'll be right back after with all the lightning round after this. Welcome back to Multiverse News. First off, let's talk about our Spotify poll for last week. When did you see Deadpool and Wolverine? That's an interesting question. So 25% of you, as of this poll, said they had not seen it yet. 2% of you saw it before Thursday, which I think that's kind of wild. But I love this. The biggest percentage, 34% of you saw it on Thursday. On the opening night, that's pretty rad. 14% on Friday, 17% on Saturday, 2% on Sunday, and 7% after Sunday. So that's a lot of
got some hardcore fans.
Yeah, I love that many people in our audience saw it like right away.
Yeah, we had some good turnout in this poll as well, but I'll admit that I might have like slightly botched it, because when I was editing the episode Tuesday night for it to go out Wednesday, I was like, surely most people aren't going to participate in the poll until like later on in the week, but I think most people like responded on Wednesday, and that's why like so many of those still haven't. I suspect most of those people actually have seen it by now, but maybe not.
Oh, yeah.
I voted in when I was planning to see it, which was Friday.
I should say when. Yeah. What did we say? Gotcha. When did you see it? I probably should have said when will you? Yeah.
You were thinking in the future.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, up next is the lightning round. You guys know how this works. I'm going to read a story. The panel will claim it by yelling out their name. First person to yell out their name gets to respond to the story, and then we get one rebuttal for the entirety of the lightning round. And we're going to try to stick to it tonight, guys, because this show is going to be long.
This one's beefy.
It's a beefy. We're going to go through this one quick as we can. This is a Comic-Con week, as always, long, but here we go. SAG-AFTRA is striking against major video game companies after nearly 2 years of unsuccessful negotiations for its interactive media agreement. The strike began on July 26th at 12:01 a.m.
Scotty?
Jay? Oh, go ahead, Scotty.
Maybe you'll have an opportunity to rebut here, because I don't know all of the ins and outs here, but I'm surprised that this isn't making bigger waves in the industry. I follow a couple of like gaming news outlets where I get my news from, and they haven't really been talking about it. But if this strike does not get wrapped up pretty quickly, we talk about how much a strike impacts a movie or a TV show. Video games take so much more time and people to make happen. So we probably won't see an impact anytime in the near future, but if it doesn't get resolved quickly, it's going to hurt us gamers in a major way.
I'm glad that you answered, because that was much more thoughtful. All I was going to say was, are you wanting to play Grand Theft Auto 6?
Oh, right.
You're going to have to wait even longer.
Yeah, good point.
Yes. All right. Last week on July 25th, Kevin Feige received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Several actors from the Marvel Cinematic Universe were in attendance for the ceremony. Matt, thank you for giving Kevin Feige a star on my birthday. Thank you very much, whoever the committee is for stars. I'm sure they probably paid for it. It's probably a thing.
I think they do have to pay for it, don't they?
Yeah. I think it's like basically a marketing gimmick. Of it, yeah. I'm sure they won't just let anybody pay for it, but like, yeah, it's probably just a marketing gimmick, really. But like, it's nice, and happened on my birthday. Kevin Feige deserves it. Dune and Mission Impossible star Rebecca Ferguson has joined the cast of Netflix's upcoming Peaky Blinders movie and will star alongside Cillian Murphy.
Killian.
Dang it, I did it again. Cillian Murphy.
Scotty, I'm not the biggest fan of Peaky Blinders, so don't scream at me, but I'm a big fan of Rebecca Ferguson, so maybe I'll have to go back and binge some Peaky Blinders to check out this movie, because Cillian is an absolute talent as well, and seems star-studded. The long-rumored Spawn movie may finally emerge from development hell, with a script titled King Spawn now completed. Creator Todd McFarlane and Blumhouse's Jason Blum are set to meet with directors.
Jay, not a hugely knowledgeable person about this, but I just think it's cool whenever you've got a movie that has been rumored for a long time, which this one has. Like, it's constantly been trying to get off the ground. It sort of hit that COVID road bump, and then all of that has happened over the last few years. And to see a thing that people like start to get some momentum a little bit and meet with directors, that tells you that it's moving in a good direction, which is a cool update.
At San Diego Comic-Con, Paramount unveiled the title sequence for the upcoming animated series Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Set in the universe of 2023's Mutant Mayhem, it will bridge that film and its sequel. The series streams on Paramount Plus starting August 9th. Scotty, I fully intended to watch this title sequence, but I'll be honest, I did not get around to it, so if someone else watched it and wants to rebuttal, by all means. But, considering how well received Mutant Mayhem was, I think this makes a lot of sense. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a franchise that I remember fondly from my childhood, and it's just persisted. So it's encouraging that fans of this new movie will, have these versions of their characters that they get to spend more time with in a series. I probably won't check it out unless I hear like really strong word of mouth from some sources that I trust, but it'll be interesting to see how essential viewing it'll be going into the sequel, because minor spoilers here, but the Turtles are in school, so I imagine the series is probably going to focus on that.
pretty heavily, but we'll see.
Netflix released the first trailer for Chaos, starring Jeff Goldblum. The 6-episode series by Charlie Covell offers a bold, darkly comic, contemporary take on Greek mythology and will stream on August 29th.
Scotty? Ooh, yes, I had so much fun playing the Grandmaster that I had to go over and, yes, I had to play another version of a god. So that's what I'm going to be doing now, is in Chaos.
It's maybe one of your best. It's maybe one of your best. This trailer was actually kind of crazy. Like, I don't know if you got around to watching it. It was kind of like buried in the lightning round. But like, I was like, oh, Jeff Goldblum, it'll be funny. But then you watch it, and it's like really bloody and violent, and like you're like, what in the world is going on? This is Jeff Goldblum. So yeah, it's definitely an intriguing series that they're putting together.
For sure. I felt like it was a really dark turn for Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. It's clearly, I think, trying to draw parallels between the gods of Olympus and sort of billionaire culture. It seemed to me.
Absolutely.
As he's literally on Olympus, and it looks like just like a house in Hollywood. Like, it's got like gardens and stuff, but that's his Olympus. Or at least whatever place he lives in Greek mythology. Yeah, it looks really, really good and really interesting and weird turn for him. But I'm excited about the like sort of social commentary of it and seeing a really different side of Jeff Goldblum, because he still seems just as charismatic and wonderful as always, but it looks so like such a dark show. The trailer starts, if you haven't seen it yet, the trailer starts with they only love me when they only call out to me when they're afraid or scared. And so it starts showing all the like different problems he's causing on the earth to like cause people to fear, so they worship him. It's dark. Kind of love it. Prime Video has ordered a prequel to The Boys titled Vought Rising, starring Jensen Ackles and Aya Cash as Soldier Boy and Stormfront, respectively. Paul Grelong, executive producer of The Boys, will also serve as showrunner.
Jay, this is one of the bigger announcements from Comic-Con. It was totally under wraps, and it was a surprise. These are both great characters played by really great talent in The Boys, and I think are characters that people want to see more of. So it's cool to think about a prequel to The Boys. We've talked a lot about sequels to The Boys and spin-offs from The Boys, but to see a prequel, I think, will give them a lot of cool opportunities to really explore these characters a little bit more.
At Comic-Con, a second trailer for the animated film Transformers 1 was debuted. The voice cast includes Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Keegan-Michael Key, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, and Scarlett Johansson. The film hits theaters on September 20th.
Scotty, I recall when the first trailer for this came out, I thought it looked pretty terrible. It was clearly, geared towards a younger audience and was just not for me. But not only did we get the second trailer with Comic-Con, the first round of press has been able to see the movie, and we're getting our first reactions out there. And I have to say, I am pleasantly surprised by how much people are enjoying this movie. So I went from not being interested at all to, with the combination of, these first reviews and first takes in combination with this second trailer, which I do think it was an improvement. It showed us a little bit more about the villain turn from Brian Tyree Henry. He goes on to become Megatron. So, I think it kind of takes it a little bit away from the kiddie feel and makes it feel like it's for, all Transformers fans a little bit more. So we'll see when it hits in about a month here, a couple months.
Showrunner Ronald D. Moore has exited the project A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is still in development with Disney. The adaptation was announced in 2021.
Haley, we weren't a show in 2021, so we couldn't announce this, but the ACOTAR series is an extremely popular book series in the romantasy genre, like with Fourth Wing, which we talked about last week, and it's interesting that What?
It took me a while to realize you said ACOTAR, which is the acronym of this property, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I thought you said Avatar at first.
People who are listening will know.
If you know, you know, okay?
It's an if you know, you know situation. Yeah, ACOTAR, because it's really hard to say the A Court and Thorns and Roses show. So the ACOTAR series. So I don't love... So Moore exited because he left Disney. He went to Sony. So I don't know that was necessarily anything wrong, but the show is kind of lingering. It's been in development now for 3 years, and I don't know that Disney Hulu is the right home for it. I think that if you want to be darker, I just like Fourth Wing's going on Prime. That seems like a better home for something like this too.
AMC has renewed Daryl Dixon for a third season. Season 2 premieres on AMC and AMC Plus on September 29th. The first season, AMC Plus's top premiere, will stream on Netflix starting August 19th. Matt, I really enjoyed the Daryl Dixon series. It was good. The first season was a lot of fun. I didn't realize it was going to be an ongoing thing. I think it ended in a way that I thought they could keep it ongoing, but it also... I thought it was going to be a one-off when I first heard of the show. I'm actually really surprised how much they're sinking into Walking Dead still. I know it was their biggest show for a long time, but it doesn't feel like it's really had the legs. And they've got like 4 different Walking Dead series they're running now. I'm enjoying them all, though. I'm caught up on most of them, and it's pretty good. The thing that most interests me is to see if we will see a bump in its viewership once it hits Netflix, because a lot of people are not on AMC Plus. And so it's that, can your show last long enough for a season to make it to Netflix so that people will come and follow it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of old Walking Dead fans that'll see a Daryl Dixon show pop up on Netflix and go, oh, I meant to watch that, but I wasn't going to go get a new thing for it. So that'll be interesting to see if people follow people, if AMC Plus can become a thing. At Comic-Con, Hulu's Solar Opposites was renewed for a Season 6 ahead of its Season 5 premiere on August 12th.
Scotty, yeah, this excites me. Clearly, they have some confidence in Season 5, and it also makes me happy that, Season 4, I wasn't really paying attention to how it was received by the greater audience, but that was the first time that we had Dan Stevens stepping in for Justin Roiland and doing his take on the character. So I was totally on board for it. I think it was the right move and makes sense with this series. So I actually, I'm a little bit behind on Rick and Morty, but I think Solar Opposites is just a better show in my estimation. I think it's consistently more entertaining. It hasn't been out as long, but I'll be looking forward to catching both of these seasons that are coming up.
Prime Video announced at Comic-Con Season 4 of Invincible, Season 3 and 4 of Has Been a Hotel, and Season 2 of Sausage Party Foodtopia.
Scotty, yeah, it seems like Prime Video is all in on animation, which I'm definitely here for. Of these shows, the only one I have seen is Invincible, but I've been meaning to watch Has Been Hotel. It's got A24 associations. I think it got its start on YouTube, and it has a very fervent and excited fan base there. I like Sausage Party, but it's not a high priority for me, but I'm glad that there's an option for people that are looking for a continuation of that universe.
The sausage verse.
You're getting it whether you want it or not.
A new trailer for the second season of Prime Video's The Rings of Power debuted at Comic-Con on Friday. Revealing more about the series' scope and characters, Season 2 starts streaming on August 29th.
Jay,
I was waiting for you to jump in.
Well, it's just kind of to the Rings of Power for me. Season 2 is just at the point where I'm just like ready to watch it. I've seen the trailers, I've seen it, like it's just all the marketing, I'm just ready for it to just drop so we can see it and decide if we like it or not. I liked that first season of Rings of Power. I know it was kind of a little all over the place with the characters and stuff, but this one is being billed as like bigger and like even more of a higher budget, which is insane, but like trying to continue to expand this thing. So it's got a lot of work to do. I mean, there was a lot of loose threads left over in season 1, but yeah, these trailers really get into a lot of the visuals, and it looks like the budget's still there, and they're making it with confidence.
I have a tiny but. The jewelry lack of continuity bothers me. That's all I'll say about that.
Continuity between this show itself, or continuity between this and like the movies, or
this and the movies.
Oh, gotcha. Well,
the jewelry in the movies is so good.
Oh yeah,
we've talked about how these are 2 completely different production companies, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's the first signs of like, This
Yeah,
is not
I don't
the
like them.
same thing. At Comic-Con, Disney and BBC confirmed a new 5-part Doctor Who spin-off titled The War Between the Land and the Sea. Set in the 1970s, it stars Russell Tovey, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Gemma Redgrave, and Alexander Devrient.
Where are Whovians
Matt?
at? Come on.
I'll throw
I didn't
it.
look at anything about it. Sorry.
Yeah, I know nothing about this series at all. I've enjoyed this most recent season of Doctor Who, and I think this is an interesting idea to do a 5-part. It just said 5-part series. I'm assuming it's just a 5-part series and not an ongoing, which is cool. I think that's neat. They've done a number of ongoing series for Who, and it gets a little bit too much. Like I can't commit to Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood and Doctor Who all at the same time. It's one of those things that lost me and made me fall off of Who in the beginning. But like a nice 5-part series that sort of lives in that world seems neat. So I'm down.
I like Russell Tovey. He's a good actor. He's often cast as kind of a villainous role, so I don't know. And then Gugu Mbatha-Raw is our girl from the TVA, our Ravonna herself.
Oh, there we go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Ravonna Renslayer. That's her name that I couldn't think of as I started talking.
Daniel Deemer will play Tyson the Cyclops in season 2 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Production on the season, based on the Sea of Monsters, begins this week in Vancouver.
Haley, I really, really liked the first season of Percy Jackson. I had just read the books because they were like not in my sphere when I was growing up. I won't say anything much about Tyson's character because it could be a spoiler, but I'm looking forward to it. It was funny, even though it was for a young audience. I thought there were parts that made me just really laugh out loud.
Simu Liu joins the cast of Gremlins The Wild Batch for its second season, premiering on Max on October 3rd. The new season is set 1 year after the first.
Scotty, I haven't seen the first season, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it was titled "The Secret of the Mogwai," or so maybe it's one of those situations where they've got a first season titled as one thing, and subsequent seasons have different subtitles. I'm kind of a fan of that, but I like how Netflix is willing to like bring back these like beloved but maybe not in super high demand properties. Like I think about that series they did for The Dark Crystal. It ended up being a massive failure for them, but I think this is where animation makes sense. So I love the Gremlin movies, and Simu Liu is an absolute talent. If you couldn't tell, I think he stole every scene that he had in Barbie for me. So I'll always check out what he's got going on.
Deadline reports that Warner Brothers is eyeing Stephen Caple Jr., director of Transformers Rise of the Beasts and Creed 2, to direct I Am Legend 2, starring Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan.
Jay, Michael B. Jordan is in Creed 2 as well, so we're seeing kind of like a reunion here, which makes sense. So usually whenever the trades report that they're eyeing somebody, that's who usually ends up directing. So if you're a fan of that work, you're probably going to expect an announcement on that. I mean, I Am Legend 2 has been talked about forever, but Bad Boys for Life did pretty good at the box office. Will Smith has shown his career is still alive and well, and they're probably got moved up the priority list a little bit.
At Comic-Con, Matt Groening, David X. Cohen, and the Futurama cast announced guest stars for the upcoming season, including Bill Nye, Danny Trejo, Neil deGrasse Tyson, LeVar Burton, Kyle MacLachlan, Tim Gunn, Cara Delevingne, and Anna Ortiz. The new season began streaming on Monday, July 29th.
Scotty, good news, everyone. There's more Futurama to watch, and if we have this, this number of guest stars to look forward to, the ones that stand out to me in particular, Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson, just like with their relationship to the scientific community and knowing how Futurama is one of the like smartest comedies I've ever seen, and really relishes the opportunity to play with some of those sci-fi constructs or what have you. I'm really looking forward to it. I thought the revival that happened about a year ago was a great way to bring Futurama back.
Mm-hmm. I watched some video about like a math theorem that was like in the background of a Futurama episode that ended up being proved, and it ended up being like a big math, some advancement in math. And there's stuff like that all the time with like Groening's things. I think he's a time traveler.
Predicted so many things. Yeah.
Yeah. Back when
we're in a simulation, you guys.
yeah, back when Elizabeth Warren was running for president, there was all this stuff about how like the episode where where Lisa Simpson is president, she beats Donald Trump, and she's wearing like the same outfit that Elizabeth Warren was wearing. It was like this weird, like, there's just crazy predictions, all kinds of crazy. It comes from just making. I feel like it's almost the million monkeys with typewriters can come up with Shakespeare thing, where they just made so many episodes that like they just predict weird things about the future, but like it's still kind of crazy and interesting. Okay. Alexander Freed's new Star Wars book trilogy set during the Galactic Empire's rule has announced its second entry, Reign of the Empire. It expands on Andor characters and explores the rebellion's early struggles and themes of fear and resistance. The book's release also aligns with the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi.
Haley? Well, you know what the books are going to be about, so I'll talk about Alexander Freed, who has written a lot of Star Wars comics. He wrote a tie-in novel to Star Wars Battlefront video game.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not the gamer. Sorry.
You're good.
It was the Twilight Company one, and then he also wrote the Alphabet Squadron books, which I haven't gotten to in my canon Disney Star Wars reading, but I'm getting there. So he's well versed in this world, and I'm looking forward to it.
Collider reports that production on 28 Years Later has concluded, with the sequel boasting a $60 million budget.
Scotty, the primary purpose for including this one, there's not a lot to go off of here, but we just wanted to remind everybody that this sequel is happening. The next in line of these, quote unquote legacy sequels that make a return after a number of years. But looking at the budget there of $60 million, that is a significant hike up from the previous entries. But, Danny Boyle has done a lot of work in between there, so I think he can be responsible with it. And then just looking at the production here, it started in May, wrapping up at the end of July. That seems like it was a pretty standard and smooth production. So hopefully that will be reflected on the screen.
They've also got Oscar winner Cillian Murphy in there.
Oh,
yep.
Did we find out he's more than an executive producer? Is he
I
in
thought
the movie?
he was going to be in the movie too.
Oh, I
it's
didn't
kind
know that
of
was
been
confirmed.
talked about, but they haven't like
I don't
come
think
out
it's
and
been announced yet.
yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
been like, but it's been like rumored that he's getting some kind of role in it.
It would make sense. Yeah.
Being an executive producer, I can't imagine they wouldn't put him in the movie.
Yeah.
Or he wouldn't come back for that, It will mean the difference between this movie feeling like a real sequel to the original, I feel like.
For sure.
So yeah. All right. Well, that's Multiverse News. We'll be back soon with probably a shorter episode next week because Comic-Con has expended all the news in the universe. But we'll be back every week, keeping you guys apprised of what's going on in your favorite fictional universes. Let's go around and tell the people where else they can find you online. Jay Sisson.
Yeah, well, you can find me at Commute the Podcast, which this week we did do a segment on the rise of novelty popcorn buckets. So if you are interested in that, come learn about it. So perfect tie-in. So come check out Commute the Podcast if you've been on the fence. And then Haley and Ashley and I recorded our follow-up to our Avengers Assemble episode on Twister. We all saw Twisters and then did a podcast about that a few days ago. So that'll be dropping at some time in the near future. So if you saw Twisters and you're interested in hearing a conversation about Twisters, go subscribe to Avengers Assemble wherever you get your podcasts.
Sweet. And J. Scotty St. Clair.
Yeah, I'll just take an opportunity to plug another show on the network, Always Watching. It was previously known as PandaVision. Now it's Always Watching. And if I'm not mistaken, the House of the Dragon coverage is still going, but wrapping up in the next couple of weeks here.
One more week, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
one more episode.
Very cool, very cool. And then I do want to provide just a quick update on Animation Deliberation, just because some people in the Stranded Panda chat, our community, have asked about it. We are not done for. We're just on an extended hiatus. I've been talking with my co-host Zuhair Ali about putting something together sooner rather than later. So appreciate all the interest and support.
And Haley Hobbs.
Make sure you're following all of the network socials everywhere. Everybody's on something. multiple somethings, some of us. So go follow all the shows. Go give everybody a 5-star review. Go tell us how much you love Scotty and I on Multiverse. Multiverse?
Yeah.
Multiverse News. Because I'm in a simulation, so I'm a robot. And we're off this week on Source Pages. Brian's on vacation, but we'll be back with our Deadpool and Wolverine review next week. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed some of the cameos, wink, go listen to our primers.
Sweet. And I just want to promote the Patreon where you're going to hear me yell for a few minutes about the Acolyte. I would really like some explanations, Haley.
I'll try to give you some. I'm going
to hold your feet to the fire on this.
I don't want that
so
heat.
patreon.com/multiverse newscast. We're over there and we try to drop some stuff on there regularly. So join us there, and that's it. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse. Multiverse.
I don't know why. When you talk for so long, you're just saying shit weird.
Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing. Eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. StrandedPanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts. And thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.